It was for me, anyway.
For you, you also said very clearly at the beginning of your relationship with Pierre Trudeau that you wanted to be more than a rose in his lapel, which was obviously a trademark for him. Is that maybe why, nearing the end of your marriage, you would have maybe what people would call the tabloid portion of Margaret Trudeau's life, where it was Studio 54, the tramp
Yes,
in
that
London?
was that was after we separated, and I was trying to make a new life for myself. I was very rebellious as well. I had been, I thought I could be granted some time off for good behavior. I was wrong because everything that I did was turned into a political, ball to throw at Pierre. So I got caught in all of that. I was also suffering from a bit of mania, and I was not being treated. And so I was making choices for myself that were the wrong ones, and I made mistakes. But I don't know.
But who hasn't now?
Who hasn't? And who wouldn't like to run off with the Rolling Stones?
Oh, sure. No, exactly. And all of those things.
But I learned from my mistakes, and that's a part of the message that I have to give, is that you can get help, and you can get a pharmaceutical that will raise the level of serotonin, for example, in your brain to lift you out of a depression. It's like a life preserver that's thrown to you, that you will start feeling better. You'll start feeling joy back in your life. But that isn't enough if you've burnt bridges behind you, and if you have alienated your family and friends by your actions and your impaired insight and your bad judgments. So there's a process that you have to go through that usually involves therapy or being able to talk honestly to someone. Now, it could just be a family doctor, it could be a priest, it could be a counselor at school if you're a teenager, it could be just a very good friend, but openly, honestly talk to people about how you feel. And go through the process of forgiveness, forgiving yourself for the mistakes you've made. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. There was some things that probably nobody even knows about. Because of the big things, they were just, a lot of that was all made up for the press, by the press. Nobody really knew me that was talking about me. But there's certain things, certain decisions that I made and things that I did that were wrong. But everybody makes mistakes. That's part of growing. If you keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again, then you're pretty stupid. You're not learning from your mistakes. I hope I learned from my mistakes. I had a very good life. My bipolar condition has not taken away a lot of good times in my life. There's been many, many years when I was very happy and very balanced and had a good life. But then, now and then, just out of the blue almost, usually something happens, such as a death. Once it was the death of a dog, a puppy, that just threw me down, and I had a hard time getting up. The end of a marriage, that's a hard time for anyone. But I think when you've got an exaggeration happening in your emotions, when you get too low and too high, which is what bipolar is, things get out of whack, and things that people with a totally balanced mind, if there are such people, find easy to deal with. That, oh well, that happened, and I'll just get up and move on.
Well, how do you deal with the real? I mean, Michael gets swept away in an avalanche at Cockney Lake. Everyone in the country remembers it, and if you're suffering with a mental illness like bipolar disorder, I mean, how do you even get through that, or can you get past it? Are you over it even today?
I did, yes. The grieving process is a real thing that you have to go through. It took me a good 5 years to be able to feel any joy. I had to learn to allow myself to get over it, to allow myself to be happy. I had to learn to allow him to be dead. For a long time, I was in such denial. I just couldn't face any reality about it. I couldn't face my own reality, and definitely not the reality that he was gone forever. But then a kind of peace came over me when I realized that he had had his life, a short one, but a great one, and that maybe he had something more to do in a spiritual sense than he could ever accomplish on this earth. So I found his spirit and the spirit of his father have helped our family heal enormously, because there was such strength in them, and we had such love, and we've got such love in our hearts, and our memories are so wonderful.
And so 2 short years later, when Pierre dies and you're at his bedside, And I read a quote where you say you valued him so much, and that, you know, love continued to grow. So you were never out of love with Pierre.
We were never apart our lives. I mean, we were physically apart, but we were. He was my husband. His death was you know, he was 80, and it was a natural thing, but it was still heartbreaking that he would leave us and leave Justin and Sasha when they had lost their brother. But it just was the way it was. He couldn't get over the sorrow of the death of Michelle. He didn't have the will to live anymore. He told me I had to, and I somehow found that will. I have beautiful children. I have a lovely 18-year-old daughter. I have a 22-year-old son who went to Dalhousie and got his degree in business. They keep me active and busy and involved in a daily level. But the main thing was 6 years ago I got the help I needed, and I got my mind sorted out, and I chose sanity. I chose to give up the things that were causing me to be unbalanced. Something as simple as sugar was throwing me for a loop, on a day-to-day kind of way. It's almost like induced diabetes, self-induced. I was just up and down, and I found once I got rid of sugar, there was an evenness, really good nutrition, taking care of my body, exercising. I've always hated exercising. I love sports, skiing and all of that fun stuff.
But Margaret, isn't it funny you say something as simple as sugar, and isn't it that exactly what happens to people? It's the simplest things in life turn them around. But then there's complicated issues like, for instance, marijuana, and you said it very simply. You had to get away from it because
I was using it, as many people will who are in a depression and who are seeking to alter their mood. It's an easy way, and as a hippie, and it's readily available in Canada, there's no question. I think we have the highest per capita rate of smokers in the world, but maybe that's okay for a lot, but not for people suffering bipolar, because it has the propensity to push you into psychosis.
And it's not taboo enough anymore. It's like you say, people are actually talking at the parliamentary level of decriminalizing, so obviously you're staunchly opposed to that if you think that it's...
No, I'm not.
You're not.
No,
I'm
not.
It's a good idea.
No. Certainly I don't think it's a criminal offense to smoke marijuana. I think it's all part of not self-medicating, it's self-monitoring, knowing what your limits are. My limits are that if I smoke too much marijuana, I lose my balance pretty quickly. I get just too high. So I can't do that anymore. The same way I've never had really a problem with alcohol, but I just don't drink too much. I use moderation, and it sounds boring, except out of that balance comes great delight and joy in every day. I mean, I wake up each morning and just feel, yay, it's another day, goody. And I remember when I was sick, waking up in the morning and just going, oh no, I don't want to wake up. How am I going to get through this day? Now it's the opposite.
You're happy.
Yes.
You look fabulous.
Thank you.
What do you say to people who are really concerned that 1 in 4 Canadians will have some degree of mental illness?
I think that you have to reach out and ask for help. Only a third, as I said earlier, a third of Canadians will ever reach out and get help from even depression. It's like they think that this is okay to feel this way, and people will say to them, well, buck up, come on, get out, come for a walk, do this, and they have no energy to do it. Well, what they don't understand, it's a chemical imbalance that is keeping their serotonin level is just so low that there isn't the synapses that you need in your brain to give you delight, to give you joy, to give you happiness. So it's just really, if you had diabetes, you would not hesitate for 1 minute to take insulin.
And we'd all come running to say, sorry, what can we do for you? As opposed to when someone you know or love is diagnosed with a mental illness, some people just turn and run.
Well, they're scared of it because it's an unknown, but it shouldn't be an unknown. The more we're educated, there's a lot you can find out on the internet. And certainly organizations like the Canadian Mental Health Organization and the support groups across the country give an amazing knowledge and understanding and compassion. And we really have to have compassion for people who are suffering, because there, but for the grace of God, go I. And you could be there in next month. You never know with life. You never know how it's going to strike out and hit you, and how prepared you are to do the battles. But one of the things I've learned is you have to accept that you have a problem, first of all, and then you have to reach out for help.
Well, undoubtedly, when brave, prominent women like yourself are speaking out, that's inevitably going to help thousands of people. Margaret, it's been fabulous to meet you. Thank you for making some time for us today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.